President Donald Trump and Chief of Staff John Kelly furious of leaking. That is the topic of today's op-ed live. And I'm your host, Michael Wan. CNN reported that President Donald Trump and his Chief of Staff John Kelly is furious after leaks that Donald Trump was not to congratulate Vladimir Putin. They are furious that details of President's national security briefing materials telling him not to congratulate Russian President Vladimir Putin were leaked to the press. And that press was none other than the Washington Post, which is pretty much an anti-Trump paper. Now, this kind of thing is just getting out of control. It's absolutely crazy, and it's been plaguing the White House ever since Donald Trump became president. There are leaks left and right, and it has been a constant distraction of this administration. We do have to say that it did get a little bit better, a little bit tiny better, after John Kelly took over as Chief of Staff, but apparently it's not good enough. Well, Washington Post reported that Trump's national security advisors specifically instructed him not to congratulate Putin on his electoral victory. And the materials that were given to Trump read like this, and I quote, "Do not congratulate." And it was reportedly written all in capital letters. So we can all automatically think that only a small group of staffers would have access to those briefing materials. Now, of course, Donald Trump is trying to find out who this leaker is. Obviously, this leaker was going out of his way to damage Donald Trump. So it's only natural for Trump wanting to find out who was behind this. If I have to guess, I would think that the leaks probably came from the advisor themselves, who actually gave the memo to Trump. Probably this individual, whoever he was so angry that Trump didn't take his advice. Somebody forgot to give the memo to this guy who thought he had the final say. And isn't this kind of matter ultimately the president's decision? Isn't that why we elect presidents in the first place? CNN said that Trump was asking allies and outside advisors who they thought was responsible for the leak. So it shows how furious and how serious Trump thinks about this matter. Now, if you think about it, you can almost certainly say that Obama never had to deal with these kind of nonsense, which makes it clear that Trump still has some enemies within his administration. These individuals are actively working against the president. According to The Hill, John Kelly is so furious about this matter that he plans to figure out how this information became public. And The Hill also reported that other White House staffers are irritated by this as well. One person said this whole thing is unacceptable. Regardless of all this, the mainstream media, the Democratic Party puppeteers, were already having their heyday attacking Trump whole day long. They are screaming, how can he congratulate Putin? How can Trump congratulate Putin? Which is exactly why Trump congratulated Putin. Because to Trump, the mainstream media doesn't matter. He already proved it during his campaign. If it mattered, he would have changed his style. But he didn't change at all. I would say not one bit. And to Trump and many fair-minded American citizens, this whole Russia collusion is a sham. I'm not saying they didn't meddle the election, they did that. But let's not pretend that America is not involved in other countries' election process. Israel, Obama administration were meddled in Israel's election, okay? So let's not be naive, which is what the mainstream media is pretending to be. So Trump, I would say, consciously and purposely congratulated Putin. Because I would like to tell our audience, of course, there was no Russia collusion in the Trump campaign. And of course, the swamp creatures in Washington, D.C. chastised Trump for this. Even the swamp creatures in the Republican Party attacked Trump for this. John McCain said Trump's congratulatory message was an insult to every Russian citizen. He was saying that Russian citizens were denied the right to vote in a free and fair election. Yeah, Senator McCain, we all know that you still hate Trump. So your criticism pretty much doesn't really mean that much to us. And I think it's time for you to move on from your hatred towards Trump as well. I know, I remember, he said some demeaning words to you too during the campaign, but let's never forget, you attacked Trump first during his campaign, so you were the instigator. But I digress. Let bygones be bygones. And we all know Russia's election is rigged. I mean, Putin is a dictator, so what do you expect? You can't have this mindset where every country should be like America or we will not show any kind of courtesy at all. And by the way, the 2016 presidential election process wasn't done in a fair manner either. I'm talking about the United States election. Look at how Russia and Hillary colluded against Trump. And how about the media? They were all lapdogs for the Hillary campaign while criticizing Trump on every single turn. Should we go through that drill again? Hillary Clinton came up with a fraudulent Russia dossier, and it was used to essentially wiretap Trump's campaign. I'm talking about the fraudulent Russia dossier. How can you make a fake dossier and use that to wiretap a presidential candidate's campaign, which was Donald Trump? Well, that is essentially what the Hillary Clinton campaign and the deep state at the FBI did. Yeah, so of course Andrew McCabe had to go. I'm talking about the FBI deputy director. And I would say more to come in that matter. And the media is crazy as usual. One of the reporters asked whether Trump administration believed Putin's victory was won fairly today. White House Speaker Sarah Huckabee Sanders responded this, and I quote, "We're focused on our elections. We don't get to dictate how other countries operate," which was a great way to get out of these kind of gotcha questions. One thing clear is this. Yeah, it was heinous of Russia to do a pro-Trump and anti-Trump protest at New York at the same time after the election. They were trying to disrupt our democracy. But if you think about how the media behaved the past couple of years regarding Trump, of course Trump wanted to peeve them and congratulate Putin. And it was a known fact that Donald Trump, during his campaign, said he would like to build a good relationship with Russia. So what's wrong with that? And Russia is a country that has many nuclear weapons. And it's not like Russia took advantage of America's economy like China did. The media is trying to create this narrative, this fake narrative that Trump colluded with Russia. And Russia is the worst thing ever in this entire galaxy. It's all nonsense. You know what the worst thing is? The mainstream media trying to fabricate this Russia collusion thing. Now that can be argued as one of the worst thing ever that ever happened in American politics. I call it the worst political scandal that ever happened in the United States of America. The Trump-Russia collusion, it was fabricated by the Hillary team. It's as simple as that. And don't ever forget that it was Hillary that colluded with Russia. Which is why this whole thing is so sinister. Well, that's our show for today. Our show Op-Ed Live is not about left or right. It's about what's right or wrong. To stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.